You know, I hate to say it, but we don't need any conditional deals. What we need is enforcement of the U.S. border, okay, especially the southern border, but in general, sovereign borders without deals. Anyway, let's bring in Steve Miller, founder of America First Legal and former senior White House advisor and good friend. Steve Miller, so the latest deal, amnesty for DACA, asylum seekers, maybe Title 42 for another year. My point is, if Biden would do his job and enforce the border, we wouldn't have to be in a position of making deals with conditionality. That's the first point I want to discuss with you.
Yes, well, the entire bill from Sinema and Tillis that's supposedly supported by others as well, too, is completely based on a lie. And that lie is that somehow Joe Biden needs just more resources. You know, if you throw him some immigration judges, hire him a few more border agents, well, then that'll get things under control. The whole point, Larry, is that Joe Biden is using the resources that Congress has appropriated, billions of dollars of them, to take illegal immigrants from the border and transport them into the interior. So giving the man more money is just going to turn more border agents into taxi drivers and Uber drivers for illegal aliens to bring them deeper and further into the United States, accelerating and worsening what is already the worst immigration crisis in American history.
So, okay, with that said, why would Democrats always want deals that will allow DACA. The DACA kids, by the way, they're not 5-year-olds anymore. They're 30 and 40 years old. They've been here.
They're well into their 30s now, to be clear.
I mean, they've been here for quite some time. But my point is, what about a merit-based system? Okay, what about building the wall? What about Remain in Mexico? In other words, what about the things that work? The Trump administration had very good merit-based system ideas. What about ending things like diversity lotteries? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that should be considered if you're going to have legislation. But fundamentally, Steve Miller, I'm just saying we don't need a deal if Mr. Biden would tell his law enforcement people to defend our border. That's the key point that seems to be missing in this conversation.
Well, yes, and missing on purpose, because it's the conversation that Democrats and frankly, the members of Congress that are acting like Democrats, like Tom Tillis, are trying to obscure, which is that you have a situation right now on the border where every single solitary release is voluntary by Joe Biden. All Congress would need to do to get this crisis under control would be to pass a single line in an appropriations bill that says no funds may be used to release illegal immigrants into the United States. That one line of text ends the border crisis immediately. And then you can have a conversation, like you were saying, about merit-based, about ending the visa lottery, about developing permanent improvements to border security on a long-term basis, about dealing with visa overstays and 100 other problems. This is very basic and it's very simple. But unfortunately, you have members of both parties, Larry. This is a nonpartisan point. Tom Tillis is a Republican. Kyrsten Sinema is a Democrat. You have members of both parties who don't want to acknowledge the plain facts I just stated.
Steve Miller, give me a for instance, okay, right now. I'm going to put you in charge. What actions would you take right off the top?
Well, I could do it in 2 weeks, Larry. Very simple.
Yep.
I would take Title 42 and I would use it to repatriate to their home country every demographic border crosser. Not send it back to Mexico. Send it back to their home country, be it El Salvador, be it Haiti, be it Ecuador, Brazil, wherever. I would do that in a very high-profile, very public way. Send the military planes down to the border, open them up, very politely, very humanely, transport illegal border crossers immediately onto the airplanes, and then everyone go back to their home country. Within an hour, they're onto airplanes, onto their home countries. When you do that, within 2 weeks, Larry, within 2 weeks, you're going to see border numbers plummet to the floor. To the floor. Illegal immigration will be a problem of the past.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems so simple. I happen to think you're right. And then I think long-term reforms, I mean, the Trump administration had a good package, including a merit system and ending diversity lottery. We had a whole bunch of good things. But first of all, defend our border. That is just lost in this conversation. You're right. Republicans should not give in on this kind of thing.
No, I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. You owe the American people the truth. Joe Biden's doing this on purpose. Step one is forbid him from spending any more of our money to release people who, by dint of law, should be on airplanes going home.
All right, we got it. Steve Miller, thanks for the time. I appreciate it very, very much.